Welcome to the First Five Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Corey, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Drew Gotro.
And today we have a returning guest in the studio. Very happy to have him. He drove all the way here in the rain from Lake Charles. Please welcome to the podcast, Jacob Guidry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, how was the drive?
Oh man, I power slided a couple times. At one, I was coming right out of Iowa, and they're doing like that construction right there.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of dirt and stuff, and just the road's so uneven. And so at one point I caught dirt and I slid, and then I caught like a hole. Like I just let go of the wheel. I was like, if this is it, this is it.
Oh, you carry Underwood in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I let Jesus take the wheel for me on that one. I'm coming to do God's work and do the first five. So
Nice.
It's definitely worth it.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Wanted to ask you right off the bat about some recent dates that we've been talking about. You did with Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a conference.
An anime convention.
Anime convention. Okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha. So fill us in.
Man, lots of tentacles, lots of people, honest to God, people very dedicated and dressed up and something they're passionate about.
Mhm.
So as much as I did make fun of them,
Yeah.
it was very cool to see that,
Mhm.
because not a lot of people are there are a lot of people who are like passionate about stuff but
Yeah.
won't go all in.
Right.
Like y'all are very passionate about like, the podcasting and everything, and y'all have gone all in with this stuff, and that's awesome to see. So
Mhm.
it is cool to see someone like, fully commit.
Yeah.
But man, that shit was weird.
But they had a sense of humor about it too, right?
Dude.
Like even though they take it so seriously.
Fantastic sense of humor.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And I'm a big anime guy, so there's a lot of stuff that I was looking at. There was only a couple tables I walked up to. One was that they had a dominatrix table for a festival that they were doing in Dallas, and it was just two hot girls, and they were just standing there, and I don't really know what they were promoting besides the fact that they had their own conference coming up.
Mhm.
And then the other one was like this G Fuel, which is like a gamer fuel. It's called GG,
Mhm.
and it's basically like pre-workout but for gaming. So there's no and all of they have all of these interesting like flavors.
Mhm.
Like the one I have, it's a peach flavor, but it's called
Dandruff?
Brand Risk. Yeah. They make that themselves in house.
Morning breath.
Yeah. They had one that was, and I was telling my brother about it, and he goes, "Oh, you mean like this?" And he had some because he's a big gamer, but it's called Lean. And it's just a picture of Joe Biden with a white cup and some lean inside of it. And he's like, so that's pretty cool. But I walked up to the table, and about one of the only attractive women that was there, she was wearing basically a bathing suit, but that was like her outfit. It was from One Piece. And I couldn't help it. I was just like, I walked up and I was just staring at her tits, and she was like, "What are you looking at?" And I was like, this one right here. I was like, and the one I picked up was the Brand Risk one, and it looked exactly like her. It was just a redheaded girl with just big tits, and I was like, this is what I was looking at. Does this have caffeine in it? And she was like, yeah, it does. And I was like, I'll take some. So, she sold me. But all in all, we went to do a comedy show that my buddy Roderick McDaniel put on. And I've had Roderick out to Lake Charles, him and a very good friend of mine, Cody Myers. They dual headline,
Mhm.
which is something cool that I want to get into, because that's because he also have up their goals, and that's something that has inspired me. But so we do the show. There's over 550 people in the audience,
Mhm.
and they get everything because they're highly cultural, so they
Mhm.
know, they get all of the little jokes, any kind of tags you would throw in. Like there's some tags we throw in, it's like it's just for us,
Right.
like maybe somebody will get it, but we think it's funny, and it helps make it entertaining for us to go up there and do the jokes.
Yeah.
And they got every single joke.
Mhm.
And I have my joke where I talk about Irish people, and I say, and the punchline is like, "Oh, my family's English. We fucking hate the Irish."
Mhm.
And I've never gotten a better pop from
Wow.
that. And it was just so cool to
Mhm.
see. And when you do a big room like that, I've done a couple other rooms like that for like some corporate type gigs.
Yeah.
And that I didn't get paid for. It was, we just showed up. But the laughter will like start in the beginning, and then because the way sound travels, like it takes a second for the rest of the audience for it to click with them. So it's like the laughter travels.
Right.
So me and Joshua Jordan were talking about that because it was weird. I did about 7 minutes of material in 10 minutes because they're waiting for the laughter.
You had to adjust your timing.
Exactly. But the night before, I did a club that was, it's just a house. And there's like 20 people on one side, and then the front. And it's the most intimate club I've ever done. And I did about 12 minutes of material in 8 minutes. So it's a stark contrast. And those, but it's cool to see like, oh, okay, I've got more time, and like it's a bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
As opposed to doing, so much more time in a less amount of time because you're just bombing.
Yeah.
So
you're just doing everything on 2x.
Yeah.
So do you the room that you did, was that literally the biggest room, or were those did the corporate gigs that you had done that were similar, was it a similar size crowd as well, or is that the biggest crowd you've ever performed for?
I think that was definitely the biggest crowd. I had done a room that was bigger, just space wise.
Right.
Chase Bonin got it was the Sulphur City Christmas party. So I did like 8 minutes of clean material, and which I've got that. I just like, cut out some of the cuss words and things like that. Yeah. And that was fun, but it was just a big room. But it had like, very high ceilings and all that. So they were kind of like, a lot of them didn't really want to laugh. And it was funny because like Chase's wife, because she works for the city of Sulphur. And so like her table, they were dying laughing. And then I had a table of waterworks guys in the back that were just cracking up the whole time. And then like, but the mayor was up at the front. He was just like,
yeah, no. Yeah, this entire podcast was birthed out of a story just like that.
Yeah.
Ooh, I would love to hear that story.
So I guess we can give like the Cliff Notes version of it.
Yeah, about that gala thing.
Yeah,
I think you had heard that story. We did a fundraiser, and it was terrible. It was for like.
It was for CASA, so those are advocates for people. It's basically volunteering your time to represent children that need to be adopted or that were in like abusive situations and are being taken away from their bio.
Yeah, that's your warm up, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
Before you go out there and do jokes. Yeah. But yeah, it was a big.
So Epstein's Island, am I right, guys? That was fucked up.
And I've thought about it a lot since we did that. They didn't need us. Really? No. Like, if anything, I think we ruined everyone's night because they had food and they had drinks, and people were drinking and eating, and they were there if they would have just did like the auction stuff to raise money and all that, and just let everyone, a DJ would have been better.
Yeah.
Because everyone was talking and visiting and laughing together. And then it's like, all right, sit down and listen to these guys. It really interrupted their night.
It's a weird interruption to the flow of an event like that.
Yeah. I really think if they would have just had, they probably didn't need a DJ, really. They could have just put Yacht Rock on Pandora, and I think the white people would have got down.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they got all the entertainment really and mood lightening that they really needed from the auction. So now you talked about cleaning up dirty jokes. That's a funny thing because you just never know. It comes down to the joke. Will this joke work if you just swap out the C word for something a little bit more palatable? And I find nothing that I have would work by just simply swapping out words. I keep steering my jokes into the gutter. So do you have like a lot of material that I guess you do, right? You have material you could easily just kind of reconfigure slightly and then it's clean. What is that like?
I don't like it. Okay, because it doesn't convey some of the jokes. Some of the jokes, it's just interchangeable. So some of the jokes the words don't matter, but for jokes that it does matter, but it also has to do with like me feeling comfortable and like just telling the jokes, just because that's how I'll talk. Yeah. And like that's how I feel comfortable on stage. So if I can't be that, then I feel like, oh, I'm kind of editing myself, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure y'all don't either.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the situation we're in, right? We're trying to do it on the fly, and it didn't work.
Yeah. Well, I've got to now. I'll have a little bit of material now that's not really dirty. and there's maybe a cuss word here or there. And like you were saying, it probably doesn't need to be there, but it helps. Like it helps me get the point across because like they're only there because I talk that way. But I think I could use some of that for clean material. I mean, I've got one that I've been doing about wrestling, and it's a clean. There's just one part where I'm like, yeah, they said all this shit. Like I don't have to say that.
Yeah,
but it's just in there because that's the way I talk. You know.
Yeah, that's I normally open up with the jokes about my hair, and so that's just like, oh, I look like this, and it's not it's nothing that's like, it's not aggressive or anything like that, and it's not vulgar. It's just like, oh, this is just what I look like.
Yeah, it's for everyone too.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's one of the jokes that and at the end I normally say something and I'm like, oh, we're fucked. And then, but I could just say, oh, it's not looking good for us guys.
Right.
So that's just like the change in it. And so sometimes that doesn't hit as much because it doesn't have the emphasis.
Right. It's not, you can't punctuate it with a normal phrase. The fuck really just, puts that sharp point on it. So just to wrap up the conversation about the event, we heard that you crushed multiple dates on that trip. And so did you feel like it was a particularly good show for you? Like, did you notice? Because that was Tyler's perspective, was that you killed.
Yes. So I did 3 shows that weekend. I did 2 of them at East Austin Comedy Club, which is a super cool place. That was the house that I was telling y'all about. And then we did the anime convention. So the first day on that Friday, that was the first time I've done a couple ghost roasts. So I've done like things like that. But as far as traveling outside of Lake Charles to do stand up, that's the first time I traveled since October 1st.
Okay.
So I've only been doing host sets in Lake Charles, and I was very nervous because I just hadn't worked that muscle in forever. So it was nice to do. I got the first night I went out, I did okay. I got a few laughs, but I wouldn't say I bombed, but I got a few laughs, but there was a lot of stuff that was like, I could just tell it was rigid. And so it was very nice to work that out. So I always like, if I go somewhere for a weekend to have multiple shows, I know the first show is not going to be that good.
Right.
But then I'm warmed up, and then I crushed on that on the anime show, which felt great. And then I went and did the East Austin again after that, and had a very good set.
Awesome.
Just a lot of good energy. That one, the crowd was like kind of a little weird. So some of the jokes I was saying, they weren't into it, but like I did the Irish joke again, and that one did well. And I did a little bit of crowd work at the beginning, and that went well. So it honestly, because then the following weekend, this past weekend, I was in Paris, Texas for the Tower City Comedy Festival. And I did 2 shows there. I did a roast battle, and then I opened up for Francisco Ramos. And that show, I had 15 minutes to host. And then I brought everybody else up. That show went phenomenal. The roast battle went well. But it was like I hadn't over like in December. I wasn't like I said, I wasn't doing a lot of gigs. Besides, I did a couple in Lake Charles, and I didn't know where I was going with stand up. Like I still knew that like this is what I want to do, but I was just so unclear on my goals. And I was doing a lot of DJing, and it just kind of I was like, I don't know, like I kind of like the DJing thing. So, but that trip with Tyler really revitalized like my passion for stand up. I've been writing. I've got like a whole new 5 minutes that I'm going to try out at the next open mic, which I can't tell you the last time that I've been like, oh, I have an entirely new set that I'm going to try out.
Right.
And it's jokes that I feel confident about. And I'm like, okay, this is actually kind of funny. So that's very exciting. So I see like a new revitalization. And so like my goals now are like this year, I want to do 50 shows outside of Lake Charles that I get booked on that I'm not producing. I want to do 50 podcasts, whether it's mine or, coming and doing stuff like this. And then I want to do 50 of the Jacob Talks, which is the street interviews that I do, simply because those get a lot of engagement.
Yeah.
And so the past, the last ones I posted were in like August, and each one of those were getting like anywhere from 100 to 500 likes and like thousands of views.
Yeah.
So that was kind of building up. And
it's a good exercise too, I think.
It is.
I think it could help you with crowd work in a way, And you can pick and choose. Like if it doesn't go well, you just don't post it. You know?
Exactly.
But like when you're on stage doing crowd work, you can't be like, everyone forget about
Right.
that exchange that went nowhere just now.
That's one of the things I've enjoyed watching Adam Ray with, because he, especially in like, he'll do a podcast where he's Dr. Phil, and then there's this other guy, Jeremiah Watkins, and he's a different character, and they just improv the whole thing. And I'm like, how is your mind like that? It's so crazy. But then going to a place like Austin and hanging out with those guys, and we had just like the greatest hangs afterward. We went to Denny's one night, and there was just like 10 of us, and everyone's just like ball busting, and like literally anything someone would say, someone would be like, oh, what if it was like this? Or what if you did this? And then they would just like take that little tangent and go wherever with it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it would be funny, sometimes it wouldn't be, but they're just constantly working that muscle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a creativity thing. I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch like when they'd have like those specials, like you'd watch like a sitcom, and they'd have a very special episode, and it'd be about drugs. Do you remember the one? You remember the one where, who was it? Was it Family Matters, where like the kid was a musician and he was trying to do stuff, and he's like, I wonder if I would be more creative if I was high, and so he ends up like doing some weed or something like that, and it didn't work. And since I don't experiment with drugs, I always
TV
wonder.
lies to you. Yeah. Weed totally helps.
Does it? Okay, so tell me about that, because that's something I'm very curious about.
I mean, I don't play music, but it helps with. For one thing, it kind of helps the nerves when you're on stage. If you're not, it can go badly though.
Yeah.
You know, like if I hosted the second half at Atmosphere one time. And it's harder. They pull out of a bucket now. So I didn't have a lineup to watch, and I went outside, and Brock was out there smoking a joint. So he's like, here, you want to hit this joint? And I was like, sure, fine. And then I go in, and like the feature's on stage. I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm next. And it was like the worst. It's the worst I've ever done at hosting. The whole second half, I kept going like, before bringing up comedians, I was like, give it up. And I just expected them to start clapping, but I had never said the person's name. So I'd be like, give it up. And then they wouldn't. And I'd be like, hey. And I was like, being aggressive with the audience, you know, and they were very confused because you haven't said anyone's name or anything, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, it can go rough, but it is good for like, it's good for writing.
You think so?
Yeah, it's not it's not good to do all your writing that way, but it kind of like, it makes me think a lot, and it makes me think about a lot of crazy things. And then later, like when I'm not high, then I can like clean it up and you know what I mean? And like make it a bit and like give it beats and all that. But a lot of like the absurd ideas, like that's high thinking, you know? So yeah, it helps if you know what you're doing.
And know the names, you know. Yeah.
Sometimes if I'll like rearrange a joke that was working, because I feel like there's like a lull there, and I'm like, all right, well now it's a little bit longer, so I need to put a joke here. And then I'll just sit there and stare at it, and ideas don't come. And so I usually have to go with the inspiration, just the idea of being like a professional writer that just gets like, you just get thrown into a situation and it's like, all right, you know, do it on demand. I can't really do that. But yeah, so I wonder if being high would help.
Well, yeah, I've learned from like Ghost Roast and other thing, or even just a regular roast and stuff like that, where you have to come up. You can't just go to material. You have to come up. You have to write new material specifically for that. And I've noticed something about being put in the pressure situation, like makes good ideas come out for me anyway. I feel like, and I guess y'all probably feel that way too, because y'all both done Ghost Roast and y'all both did well. I think I haven't seen everyone y'all did, but as far as I know, y'all did well every time, you know? So I find the pressure helps.
Yeah. Especially when it's something in the moment on stage. Like, you know, I find sometimes that squeezes something out of me. I was like, whoa, where'd that come from? And it's just it's that heat of the moment. So
cool. And being in the, when you're like just in the right, something about just being in the right mood. Like there's other times where like doing open mics and stuff, where I'm I'm stuck in my head about like my regular life and, shit going on. And then I'm like, oh, there's fucking nobody here. I don't really have anything new. I'm telling the same jokes in front of these same assholes again and all this. And I'll
Oh, you mean
try
Thursday?
Yeah. Well, Thursday ended up being better. Ended up being pretty good.
Yeah.
Which is a weird thing that happens too. But sometimes I'll be like that and I'm just not in the right, I don't have the right vibe, the right mood, and I'm on stage and I'm trying to say things and be funny in the moment, and none of it's working.
Yeah.
And you can listen to it and it's not working because it's not funny,
Right.
But I'm just not in that right space.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about Ghost Roast in Lake Charles? I feel like it's been going pretty well from my perspective, but as a producer, what do you think?
I think it's going well. I think the last show we did, the crowd was very weird. And because like, I mean, even like John would go up and like he did his jokes. The stand-up parts of it went better. And I think that's just because sometimes like when you do a roast, the audience, like it feels uncomfortable because they're like, okay, yeah, they're gonna be roasting each other, and then they're like, oh, that was tough. And it's like, well, that's the point. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Like I opened up with the joke on Miguel Carter was Coolio, and he had his hair all done up, and I said the joke was. I was like, how does it feel being the token black guy in a Dr. Seuss book in Whoville? and I was like, what's up with your hair, sonny boy? And it did get, like, no one really laughed. And I was like, God, that's a good joke, guys. Like, he looks like a Who, like with the hair. And so at that point, I'm like, yeah, fuck it. I'm having fun. These jokes are, doing well. But if the crowd's into it, then they're in. So sometimes it's like it's harder to do a roast with the crowd if the crowd like feels uncomfortable, and it's like, well, why the fuck did you come out to a roast then?
Yeah,
like because they love the stand up part of it,
right?
But that's the first time that happened. We've done 2 other ghost roasts, and they've been fantastic. I really love being able to do shows on a Monday at OB's because. Normally, I don't do any shows during the week because I'm like, oh, it's Lake Charles. Nobody's going to come out. But we have more people come out to those shows. We have around 40 to 50 that comes out to every single one of the Monday shows we've done. And but when we do an open mic on a Monday, same time, we don't. It's hard. It varies.
Yeah.
But the book shows have been consistent.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. If it helps the open mic, because I think y'all are doing open mics after, right?
Yeah, we're still doing the open mics after.
Well, yeah, because we did a regular roast over there, and then we did an open mic after. So yeah, having those shows kind of brings people to the open mic, so you're not just doing jokes in front of other comedians all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why I do it, because I'm like, okay, we have these people out here.
Right.
I'm not going to let these people go, and that's why I encourage people to come out, whenever we do those shows, because, comics get in for free and sign up and still be able to do your jokes in front of an actual crowd. And they've been warmed up. And if they've been laughing the whole time, which they were, we had probably about 20 people stay through for the entire show and all the way until the open mic ended. So they were there from 7:30 to 10:30. Yeah. And they enjoyed all of it. And that's, if you go to like a bigger city or something, like whenever I did the Tower City Fest, they had headliners all 3 nights, and the headliners did 2 shows, a 7:30 and a 9:30, and most of the people stayed for both shows. And they just laughed and they enjoyed it. So if they're there for it, they're there for it. Yeah. And those people were there for it. So that was something that was really cool to see. Like, people just stayed for 3 hours of comedy. And I was like, and coming from, 4 years ago, whenever I first started doing shows in Lake Charles, I was like, that's never going to happen. Right. And on a Monday, these people are out and enjoying it. And we're getting the chance to do, some people did multiple sets. Like, they would do their Ghost Roast set, and then they would do, if they won, they did that set. And then they also got the chance to sign up for the mic. And my favorite part was that this was the first time I've had a lot of people like, they're not like, nah, man, we're just going to leave afterwards, the comics. And they were like, no, this is going, let me sign up. Let me sign up. I want to do some time, So that's cool to see like people get more engaged with it. So shout out to John Merrifield for the roast. Also, I wanted to go back real quick before we continue. Tyler Arsenault crushed at all of the shows. Yeah. In Austin.
Yeah, he said that his set of that anime convention, he said, was his best performance, like his best set he's done in the 10 years or whatever it is he's been doing comedy.
Yeah.
It was the most perfect. It was like a culmination of everything I've seen him do. And he is one of the reasons that like just helped respark my Kindle for joke writing and like wanting to be the best. We were driving up there and he was, he listens to a lot of the same music I do. And he was like, dude, I love listening to rap music because these people like they're number one. They believe they're number one. They want to be the best. And like I want to be the best that I can be. And I was like, you're so right. God damn it. I forgot that. And so it's crazy. Like I never thought that I would forget that. Yeah. And then I forgot it. And then I was like, oh, you dumbass. Of course. Like this is why I'm doing this. Like I don't expect to be Chappelle, but I do expect to be the best comedian that I can be.
Right? Yeah. You want to be the best Jacob. Yeah, exactly.
Like I want to be touring and, doing, do a weekend at the Improv or something like that. That would be like my, that'd be what I would want to do. And just to be able to do a lot of cool projects that come along with it, with other creative people. That's why I love coming to do this, man. It's so much fun.
And I completely agree. I think you've got to have something to get that fire in you, and you got to have that kinetic energy. But at the same time, I think comparing yourself to where you used to be is probably the best way to do it, because there's a clip going that's, I think it's starting to get some traction right now from, we wanted to plug our friends, Jason Leonard and Tyler Arsenault. They have a podcast called We're Dying Down Here. It's a really good podcast, and they get the opportunity to do sit down interviews with a lot of the national touring acts that come through. So definitely worth subscribing on YouTube for that. And they did
Sean
Patton very recently, and he was talking about if he had like one piece of advice that he would give to comics, it would be don't compare yourself to other people. And he was just using his own situation as an example. He's got friends that started after him that are like filling up arenas or maybe not arenas, maybe it was theaters, but he was just talking about how he can't necessarily do that yet, but he doesn't look at that and say, oh, well, then they're just better comics than me, or whatever. He's like, no, I mean, they figured out their thing faster and it's working out for them, but that's not necessarily a reflection on Sean's comedy. Yeah. I thought that was a really, good thing. You can definitely compare yourself to something to give you that fire and want to be the best, but it doesn't necessarily have to be comparing yourself to other people.
Yeah. You just want to, be the best that you can be. And like I said, as far as like one of the things that Sean Patton said too on there was that, and it's kind of how I look at it as far as being successful in comedy is as far as be it as a career, as I look at, am I successful in my career, is to where like, if I can get to a point where I'm doing comedy and I don't have a job and I don't have to get a job, and my family is taken care of, we don't have to be millionaires, but if I'm meeting, we're at some barbecue and I meet this guy who's this chick's husband who, my wife knows, and what do you do for a living, where I can say, I'm a comedian. Like, I'm successful. And then as far as that, then the only thing that I should still not always be hungry about is just how good I am personally, as far as how good is my act, how, how good am I at writing jokes and performing and having to deal with like whatever problems that come up, knowing how to deal with them. But as far as success goes, if I can get to a point where I'm a comedian and that's my job, I'm successful.
Now, I don't think anybody's ever seen your hair before. And and
I figured that
I still thought he was wearing that. I figured something. Hat.
I figured that. I was surprised it took this long for it to get addressed, really. I thought I was going to get roasted when I got here.
Well, I didn't know if you dressed up, because I didn't know if that's how you started dressing up nice, because it's a video now.
Yeah, I was trying to keep up with Michael.
Yeah. Michael's always
Tuesday
fashion,
night mic,
right?
At the Tuesday night mic, Raven clowned my wardrobe, so I decided I'm going to start dressing nicer like Michael.
All right. The real reason.
Yeah, I'm going to start crossing my legs. But, Yeah, no, I've got a daddy daughter dance with my little girl
Nice.
after this, so
Yeah.
I couldn't wear the hat and then mess all the hair up. So
Yeah.
after we're done, when it gets closer to time for that, I'm gonna tuck in my shirt and put a tie on and all that.
Nice. Well, let's move on to something more interesting.
Please.
No, I'm just kidding. But I talked about like what like my spark was and like my fire. I want to hear what is y'all's. Like what are some of y'all's goals and like what's like what inspires you to like, you know, keep that fire for comedy?
I mean, I pretty much was I was just saying that, wasn't I?
Yeah.
He wasn't paying attention to anything.
I was paying attention. I
No.
just didn't know if maybe there was something you hadn't said, and I know Michael hadn't said anything.
Yeah, I have some stuff I sent Tyler very recently, but if you want to field that question first.
What exactly is the question?
I don't remember.
What's your fire? What's keeping you motivated?
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
Because sometimes sometimes I kind of lose it, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Just going through, like when I'm in between like a period of not really being booked.
Mm-hmm. That's a tough period.
And I'm just doing mics.
Mm-hmm.
You know how open mics are. Like there's this period where it's like, man, the open mics are hot.
Mm-hmm.
And then something happens where like there's a month where like it feels like maybe one open mic is hot, where it's just those are the only sets I'm doing, and it just sucks, man. No one's there.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's the thing where for whatever reason, no matter how much I try to write, I just can't think of anything that I'm in love, that I really love or whatever. I think it's funny enough, and then it gets hard, and then it's like either there's like a good set happens or an idea comes to me, and then it's like, oh, I got a good bit and I'm in love with this bit. And I think that's what kind of starts the fire again.
Mm-hmm. Having a new bit is so exciting.
Yeah,
but I don't know
how
to light the fire myself.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think for me, right now, to be honest, I got into comedy kind of hoping to develop like a more of a social life, because like all I was doing was working and hanging around at the house, and so I was hoping to like make friends. I didn't expect that I would get into one of the best scenes in the state and then become tight with all of the best people that are actively doing it on a week-to-week basis. So now that I'm in this group, I'm always so thankful to like have the mentors and the friends and everything, but also when you're always hanging around with people that are so impressive and so good that constantly make me, not just everybody else, but me personally sit there and be like, God damn, that's funny. That's just trying to keep up with my friends is enough to keep me
I've become
motivated.
I've become pretty underwhelmed with most people now. Now that I'm hanging out,
man.
now that I've gotten used to hanging out with comedians and the type of conversation that when I'm around other people that don't do comedy, and I mean, I think everyone's a comedy fan to a certain extent, but they're not comedy fans like other comedy fans. They're like, they know a few people, or if they see it, they'll watch it. It's fine. And a lot of times the conversation going around, and I'm just like,
this fucking sucks.
Zoning out. And I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about?
It sucks, dude, because they just don't get it. And then you'll start like, just throwing out little bits or stuff here. You'll just start making jokes like, yeah, am I right, guys? And
I'll catch myself trying to riff with regular people, and they're not catching the they're not hitting the ball back. They're like, they don't understand. They're like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh yeah, it's me here.
Yeah.
I'm the problem.
I told a woman that's my mom's age. I told her this morning at the 4-H event. I was like, yeah, I wrote this new joke this week about the N-word. And man, they just like talk about the whole conversation. And it's like, and I was just trying to explain to her, look, in a nutshell, all I'm saying is people bring it up a lot. And if it weren't for that, I probably wouldn't ever think about the word. That's the joke. Yeah. And there was no saving it. Like once I put that out there, I might as well have just had like a turd on my face, you know? So yeah, it is tough to, I don't, that's why it's just all comics now. I don't have a life outside of comedy now, but I'm happy about that. That's a goal that I can cross off the list.
Yeah.
I've started to like just being in, so like most of my friends that are not comedians, like my good friends that they're my friends because I picked them to be my friends, it's still cool hanging out with them because they have a lot of my friends who are comedians could be if they had interest in it, but they just don't.
Yeah.
You know. But when I'm in situations where I'm at having to be social with people just because they're in our lives or whatever, or they're because there's couples, my wife is friends with the wife or
parents
or or other parents and stuff like that. And it's like, Jesus, this is the same fucking conversation. It feels like all the time.
Yeah.
The same thing over and
Copy-paste.
over and over again. Yeah.
We get that. We make fun of people in Lake Charles for that a lot. 'Cause it's like, dude, hey, what are you up to, man? I'm just working.
Yeah.
End of conversation. Yeah.
It's like, okay. Are you excited about anything in your life, or is this it for you for the rest of it? That's it.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer like small talk stuff like that either, though.
Yeah,
because it's just, I don't know, like you don't care anyway. I mean, just let's just tell each other about cool, funny things that happened or whatever, you know.
Yeah, that's the only thing about small talk is that it is a very handy thing to be able to know how to do well, but there's such an artifice to it that just really grates on my nerves. Like, you know, let's get to the real as quickly as possible. You know,
if that's going on in a conversation, I normally just walk away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, and I just like kind of slip away.
Yeah, do the Homer Simpson back into the. Yeah. Now you mentioned house shows. One of the John Merrifield, his tour that's coming up. The farthest date on his schedule is in Phoenix, and it is a house show, but it's kind of a cool version of a house show where the guy that's doing it is apparently he's a musician, but he wrote the theme song for, who was it? Was it like Stanhope's podcast or his show? He like this, whoever this guy is, he wrote that theme song. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
And so he apparently knows a bunch of people in the Austin comedy scene as well. So he's apparently it's a house show, but it's kind of like I think it's the one he's most looking forward to on the whole lineup. So, you know, house shows can be cool. And speaking of that, the woman that I was referencing earlier that I was talking about the N-word, she was like, y'all should come out. She owns this bed and breakfast out in, it's like about 10 minutes from here in Brobridge, and is a beautiful property. And she has the capability of doing outdoor shows and indoor shows.
Nice.
And she was saying we should do a podcast episode in the studio.
Was this before or after?
This was after.
Okay.
Yeah,
she's a good friend of mine. Yeah.
Now after that, it's just no longer an option.
Now, normally that you would be right.
Yeah, it's like they're gonna be over there just dropping the N-word.
Yeah.
And this old house this old house has heard the N-word enough, probably through history. Yeah, we don't need to bring it back.
If these walls could talk.
Because I would think that's probably, I have a joke about the N-word, and people would just be thinking we're going to just be saying the N-word.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't understand. But I was thinking that would be cool because like we could do house shows here. I was actually thinking that because I've always, ever since I saw the layout of the living room, I realized, I have a PA. We could very easily do a 50-seater here. I just need to rent some chairs.
Yeah.
But other than that, we could do a house show in the living room and probably fit a crowd that's just as big as any club there, or any of the normal places where we have open mics. Maybe not OB's. OB's is pretty big.
Yeah.
But like Artmosphere or Legends, probably we could have just as many people.
Didn't you used to do like some house shows that were like page, like this, like if someone would pay a DJ, you did the same thing with comedy where people would pay and then you go to their party and do stand up at their house?
I Chase did a lot of those. He did a lot of like garage shows. And so like
that was like at his house though.
Correct. Yeah. I never did any shows like that. I've done shows where I've gone to people's houses.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. I did a couple for me, Barrett, Kyle, which I don't know if y'all even know Barrett. Me, Barrett, Kyle, and Jay Moody did a show at a house in Graywood, which is like the river ranch of Lake Charles. And it was like a company Christmas party.
Ooh, okay.
The UFC fight was going on behind us.
Yeah, again, another thing, they don't need you.
Man, let me tell you what.
Party. You're just wrecking the party.
And we did an hour. And yeah, each of us did
Wow.
20 minutes, and the guys were on one. It was like a middle school party, like dance. All the guys were on one side, all the girls were on one side. And I remember I did my "a lot" joke, and I was like, "Hey, my favorite hype song is this song called "A Lot." And this one girl goes, "No," and I was like, "What?" And she was like, "It's not." And I was like, "What do you mean?" I said it was for me. And she was like, "Whatever." And I was like, "What do you?" Anyways, and so it was so funny because they had all this food like made in the back in the kitchen, and the whole time I'm doing my set, I can just see Jay Moody just eating all of their food. And I went up after him and I was like, "Dog, I don't know if you could eat the food." And he was like, "I don't know. I'm in these people's house. They invited us. I'm eating this fucking food." He was just munching the whole time.
That's very Jay Moody. What's Barrett been up to? I know I don't see him as much.
He just stopped doing stand up. I want to say the last time was maybe a year ago.
Well, he cut his hair. So he's probably depressed or something.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, he doesn't look Pentecostal anymore, and that's where most of his jokes.
Yeah,
came from.
it's like he lost his conjoined twin or something.
Well, I thought you were doing like a Samson and Delilah thing, where then he could like that was his comedic power was in his hair.
I've lost my mojo, baby. He just got a new job selling cars, and he just had to focus on
every comedian in Lake Charles sells cars.
I know. Yeah,
I've never, and I won't. And if I do, don't ever work with me again. Okay, I will have sold my soul at that point.
I think we should probably put together a house show at some point. I know a couple people that would love to have us go do one at their place, and it would accommodate it. And even though I don't really like doing comedy outdoors, I think it would actually work better in this case.
Yeah, if you know the people and you know they'll be, because if you know it's not a situation where people think they want comedy and then you give it to them and you find out no they don't want it.
I think the house show like that would work if we did the kind of a curated audience, like put together, hype it up enough. If people, because the thing is, it's nobody's going to come except for the people that we invite to a show like that, I would think.
I don't know, man. There's some shows out in Houston that do that, and it's like they'll sell tickets and everything, and they get people out there, and it's just hey, this is it's like a backyard show. And then they'll have like a fire going or something like that, and then they'll do stand up. So I guess if stand up's bad enough, you can be burned at the stake, which sometimes I feel like I should be after a set. But so it's a unique idea, and people around here love the let's get together, have some beers and just sit around the fire. Like people enjoy that. I love doing that shit.
Yeah.
So and then having like some comedy, and then if it's a lot of people that come out to it, BYOB, bring your own beer. We'll serve some food, and then like just tip the comics. Yeah, you could probably get like a good decent sized amount of people who come out.
Yeah. I mean, you would know. I think you've done some pretty impressive stuff building something from nothing out in Lake Charles. So, I don't know. I think that's a Jacob Guidry seal of approval. We should do that.
Isn't there a new guy in Lake Charles that kind of said he's building something out of nothing?
You got to be more specific, man.
Yeah, there's I saw that I was seeing, somehow it came up on my Facebook, these like some people doing shows in Lake Charles, and I was like, who are these people?
Dude, I get that every now and then, man. I had this one girl came out. She was like, she was messaging me every day about like, yeah, I'm coming out to the open mic. Like I can bring, like, just ask me all these questions. And she was like, can I sell my merch? And I was like, you've never done stand up before. What merch do you have?
Right.
And I was like, no, you can't sell merch. It's an open mic. And she showed up, and she had about 10 of her people with her. They talked during everybody else's sets.
Aww.
She went up there. She had catchphrases. And her people that came with her knew the catchphrases. So she would say a joke and be like, yeah, that's why I gotta get it in my bag. And then they would all just like interrupt and go crazy. And then she never showed up again. So
yeah, she had her moment.
That's the thing about when Mexican people try to do comedy. I'm picturing a Mexican person.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow, that's crazy, because I was picturing something completely different.
Drew's probably more accurate.
Yeah. Polish.
Okay.
Polish, yes.
Yeah.
Lots of Poles in in Lake Charles, man. You know,
Yeah, they got a lot of strip clubs out there.
a lot of strip clubs.
So this is random. You mentioned new material earlier. You said you have a new 5 minutes coming off of the other thing, so you haven't availed it, right? You're going to be doing it at open mic soon.
I did some of the jokes. I just kind of like tested them out at after the ghost roast whenever I was hosting, because I was like, okay, just let me throw these ideas out here.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, next open mic. So probably on Monday, whenever you come and headline, I'm gonna do all of those there.
Yeah.
And just try them out. Just some ideas. Just I don't know, something about being around all of those people is just very like it changed my mind to where I'm like I'm in that mindset because I'm carrying that energy with me that they have.
Right.
And so like I was driving back and from Paris and there was a bunch of motorcycles and they just like kept like it made me feel like uncomfortable because they were just like they would go around me and then they would get behind me and then they would like and I was like just pick a lane and I was like it's almost like walking in a room full of babies, you know, like you can't like you got to be careful where you go. If you knock one of them over, it's a big deal. So and so I was like, oh, that's cool. So I'm literally like trying to avoid hitting them while typing. I'm like, this is good right here, typing it up on my phone.
Oh,
so just
classic.
things like that.
Yeah, that's classic.
Yeah.
Drew, what any recent new stuff you've been doing?
I'm reworking. I'm kind of toying around with a thing I did at 51st Jokes. And because I did it, and the thing about when you do 51st Jokes is like it's a big old thing, and there's a bunch of people there, but you're doing a joke for the first time, and then I did it the first time, and then it's like, oh, this isn't really a joke. This is a premise for a joke. So I've been messing with it, and I've added some stuff to it, but it's still kind of not. Like, I don't know where. I know it's not finished. Like, it's not a complete thing. And I don't know. So I'm kind of toying with that. And then another thing about how much fun it is to lie to your kids. And that hasn't gone great. It hasn't been terrible. It hasn't gone great. But I think, like, the first time I did it, I forgot, like, a really key line. And then I didn't realize till like a few more lines down, and it was like too late to bring it back. It would have been weird. So then the joke kind of didn't make a lot of sense. And then I did it another time, and it was a little bit better. But I think the way I delivered it wasn't that confident because I had like the PTSD from the last time I did it. So yeah, there's like kind of two things that are like big time in the beginning construction phases. And then a couple of things I've been doing at mics and stuff like that are a little better. Like I've got some stuff that like when I've done like Stone Drunk Sober and other things like that, there might be a joke here or there that gets swapped out, but for the most part, I've got like that reliable like 10 minutes, and I'm doing like, I think when the next Stone Drunk Sober I'm about to do, I think I'm only doing like half of that. Like I think
Nice.
I'm gonna do another half of stuff that I've been working at mics, and I've done it a few like booked gigs that I've tried out where I think the first half is, well, I don't know exactly where I'm gonna put it in the set, but I think there's gonna be like half of it that I think I got good enough to where I can bring to something like that, and I think it's gonna be a banging 10-minute set. Or we'll have to fight. It's the only way to fit. At some point, you have to try it.
You gotta try.
You gotta try it there.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
So, and I think it's like a lot of the stuff when I first started writing is just filthy shit. It's just all dirty stuff, and I just couldn't figure out. And then it got to where now I've got some stuff that really isn't. So I think it might even be better, because if you have someone in that audience that doesn't like the dirty, you don't have, you know what I mean? And my whole set's dirty, you lost them. But if I can have some other stuff that's not, and even though they don't like the dirty stuff as much, if they like the other stuff, I've got them on my side, you know? And so I think it might work. The people that like the dirty stuff are still gonna like the clean stuff if it's as long as it's funny, you know.
Right. Yeah. As long as it's funny.
And I have seen I've seen other comedians where we've been in front of crowds that like they're not liking the dirty stuff. Like I did a show we did in Cutoff, me and Tyler Arsenault, and we get over there and it's pretty much like we're at a fucking nursing home.
Nice.
And like my set, they weren't really digging it because at the time it's like I just had I even had some stuff I swapped out. Like I was gonna start with like a joke about like talking about gay material and all that, and I was like, not doing that. Definitely not up top.
Yeah.
You know. And it wasn't like terrible, but it didn't go too good because it was just a bunch of filth. And then like Tyler went up there, and Tyler like kind of did some more friendly stuff, and he worked the crowd, and he got him on his side and then towards the end of his set, he started pulling out the dirty stuff. And where they weren't laughing at so much other dirty stuff before, they were laughing at it because he had them. They already knew this guy's funny. And it's like he built the trust with them.
Exactly, yeah.
To where he's talking about skeeting and all this other shit. And, you know, they were loving it.
Right.
You know? So I'm hoping I could kind of learn how to do the same thing, you know?
An easy way I've seen a lot of people do that, and it's because it's one of the things I do as well, is that's why I like opening up with the jokes about my hair. And like what I look
it's for
like.
everyone.
It's for everyone, and it's like, okay, like I can make fun of myself. And
it's very silly.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very silly. And it helps get the crowd on your side because you're like, oh, okay, you know, this guy, this person can make fun of themselves. And the material's funny. And it's just a good way to like ease them into the pool. You know, it's like, you don't want to go straight off the diving board.
Right.
And it just sometimes I'll see a lot of comics who will do that. They'll just go straight into it. And then it's just, sometimes they're just so aggressive, and there's a lot of like, the way that they interact with the crowd, it's aggressive, and it's like you don't have to be that way.
Yeah, and
you
that's
feel
what
like you have to be.
And I've done that a
turns them
lot.
off.
I did that a lot because it was kind of just all I had, and even though no matter how much I try to write something that wasn't dirty, it just nothing was good. Like you can't just pick what you're gonna write about,
right?
You know, you have to be able to make it funny, and at the time I just couldn't have. So I had to lean into that. Where I would kind of do, that's what I would like when I would come on stage, I would kind of maybe tell like one joke that was like maybe like a little weed joke that would get them on my side a little, or like get one little good laugh out of them. So I'm kind of not so nervous. And then I just go into, so anyway, sometimes when I masturbate and hit them with that,
when you do that
and shock them with that, because it's all I had, you know what I mean? So I had to kind of just go with, I had to make the best of it, you know?
Yeah. I saw a lot of comics at this, at the festival I saw a lot of really good comics. The second day, every show that I saw, everyone was fantastic. They were so professional. The first day that I was there, I saw some not so good comics. I saw a mixture. And I was there with T-Ray Bergeron. And so me and him were talking. It was cool to hear him talk about it because he could like pick up on these little things because he's been doing it for so long. So he was like, "Oh, you know, that's just a shock value joke, or that's a this kind of joke." And he's like, "They should change this up." And I'm like, "Wow, that really would, you know, make the set better." So there's a lot of, I think just like being newer, a lot of people just like they go for the shock because they want to get a reaction. You don't know how to get that reaction yet. I mean, I like you do have jokes that like it's getting better. Like I've seen you've been doing it for what, a year?
Yeah, a little over. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've seen like the progression, and you're getting more into those jokes where it's like it's better form jokes, and like it's not a shock value, you know, like you were saying, because that, I mean, it's just an easy way to get a reaction. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get a reaction out of everybody.
Yeah, I definitely have found, because I just know from like time in a set now is that my pace has slowed down a lot.
And
I used to go through it very fast, very quickly, but I was nervous too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And with your style, the slower you go, the better it is. And that's why I think that
I've kind of been finding that. Yeah.
Yeah. That masturbation thing, when you say it, like, it's a shock, but it's like, it's very well timed and placed, because it seems it's just like this innocent topic you're talking about, whatever. And then, so when I masturbate, and it's just such a funny transition because you're not expecting that segue. And so it's just like, it's a good misdirection.
Yeah.
And so it's so fun. I love whenever you do that. It's so funny.
Mm-hmm,
It's so funny.
Mm-hmm. 51st jokes. 51st jokes. I did a toothbrush joke. So I was watching this podcast and this girl, it's the 50 or 50, the first date with Lauren Compton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was watching that, and one of those, Nikki Howard, one of these sort of internet personalities, she was a guest on the show, and they were talking about like, okay, so if you would sleep with a guy, would you, what's your stance on using their toothbrush? So that's where that came from. So I was watching that, and I wrote this joke, and all of this, we're in early February now. Basically, I use all of January to do like 8 or 9 different versions of that same joke. And the further that I got away from like the grossness of it and comparing it to like eating ass and stuff like that, try to make it a smarter, more sophisticated joke, the worse that it got. So I'm going to back burner that joke for now, but it does tie in something I wanted to talk about with what are your ideas about what makes a joke more mature? Like, can you think of something that you're like, if I did more of this, it would be a reflection of my development as a comedian?
I don't know. I mean, I would like. I mean, I've always kind of thought this. Like, I would like it to get more sophisticated, but I guess the main thing I can think of that I notice from like the great bits I've always liked from other comedians, where it's like, ooh, that's a great bit. That's one of my favorite bits. And then like the people we do comedy with, is that like not enough of my bits like kind of like tie up and come full circle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of like I say it's like I just say whatever, as many funny things as I can, and then when I run out of funny things, we're moving on. That's why a lot of my segues was so fucking terrible all the time, which kind of helped me because it made people laugh. But it was because a good bit comes full circle, and you can tie it up in a neat little bow, and then kind of like just exhaust the premise or the subject. You know what I mean? And I would like some things I have are gotten a little bit closer to that, but I would like to get better at that.
Tyler focuses on that, I think.
Yeah, like making it like cleaning it up, not subject matter wise, but I mean like the joke not being just messy or all over and unorganized, make it come together, like
taking out all the unnecessary words, getting to the point. Every word matters.
And I have gotten better at that, like cutting the fat, but there's still no like there's no like conclusion.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't come full circle,
That's something that I've been working on as well. And I've taken, there was a few jokes, like I have my joke about the show American Ninja Warrior. And that was one of the very first jokes that I had written. And I never pulled it out until maybe about a year ago. And I was like, okay, this was funny, but now I think I'm funny enough to where I can make the joke work. And then but it needs to have, like you said, it needs to have some kind of ending. And so I just had like a throwaway that I thought about. I was in Little Rock, Arkansas, and they have it's like a bakery, but it's called Fat Bottom Girls, and it was like cupcakes and things like that. And I was like, oh yeah, that's that Queen song, and I was like, why did he write that? That makes no sense. And then,
for him to write it,
exactly,
made perfect sense if I wrote it.
Exactly, yeah. And he was gay, And so
for the listeners, if anyone listening isn't up to speed on that, the lead singer of Queen was gay.
Well, I'm definitely not watching that movie now. You ruined the spoiler.
Well, it's funny because at a certain point, like where in that movie, he does realize he's gay, and he goes to tell him, and I kind of think everyone was kind of like, yeah, we know or whatever. Yeah. And I always thought, I was like, they should have put in the movie. It doesn't matter if it happened; it would have been great. Someone should have been like, yeah, the band's called Queen.
Yeah, I'm gay, guys. Yeah. We know.
Yeah, we did a rock opera album. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, we were talking about somebody for like, I don't know, like an hour before the podcast. We were talking about somebody that we saw on social media that we know who's a comic who just seems so obviously gay, but he's not out. He may not be, but it would be shocking if this dude wasn't gay. So if he were to come out, we'd all be like, yeah, I know. But my sister came out as bisexual during the pandemic.
I thought you were talking in like third person at first.
You're talking about our conversation.
I was like, why is he narrating a story about his own life?
No, that was my joke to Drew. I was like, man, this guy stole my gimmick. Like, he's like, so
fuck
gay.
does this guy think he is?
Yeah, because he stole my whole might be gay thing. And I was like, dude, we can take the might out now.
Yeah.
At this point.
Carlos Mencia of homosexuals. What the fuck?
Yeah. But yeah, he would, it'd be like, come on. And that was also the George Takei thing. It's like everybody knew by the time he came out. But my sister came out during the pandemic as bisexual, and dude, it's just me and her. Like, she's my only sibling, and we were close growing up. No idea. And she said that she had known since like she was probably like late teens, and just didn't act on it. I don't think she acted. I think the way she explained it to me was that she's just realized that she's always had those feelings, but she's never done anything about it. And so she came out I don't know, I guess she came out publicly, and she waited until she was ready to come out on social media to tell me about it. Because we're not that close anymore. But that was weird to find out somebody, was anything other than what you thought they were when you had, because I don't experience that much. I don't know anybody who turns out they're gay or bisexual or whatever. And I had no idea. Have you ever just been completely blown away when you found out somebody?
Not usually, no.
I mean, I just assume girls are bisexual anyways.
I was about to say every girl is a little bisexual.
Oh, wait, you're not attracted to the sexiest thing on the planet?
Yeah, it's like and it's like we've got a hot tub now that I got is like just two people could fit. And I was like, this is just because the kids we got rid of our swimming pool. Kids don't use the swimming pool. It's just for us to use. And it's like, if I would be not home, it's perfectly understandable that like maybe she would have a female friend come over and they would get in the hot tub. Me and Michael are not getting in this hot tub together.
Yeah.
Like there's, or even me, you know what I mean? There's a little different thing with like two dudes in a hot tub with our legs touching and all that.
We've done some gay shit, but that is definitely a bridge too far.
Yeah, I have a line. But I wouldn't think if I came home and found my wife and one of her friends in the hot tub, I wouldn't be like, what's going on here? You know?
Yeah,
I'd be like, all right. That's how chicks do,
Yeah.
But wouldn't you also feel that way if you came home and they were making out?
I would be a lot more excited.
Well, let me put some pizza rolls
No, in fact, I think I would be like, y'all know we have a hot tub, right?
It's just big enough for two, so that makes
all these clothes on. It's a funny thing too. Like, my daughter that's here, she's 11, and it was probably like 2 years ago. No, probably not that. Maybe about a year ago or something. Her mom told me that. She said that she told mom, she's like, look, I have something that I have to tell you. And her mom's like, all right. And she said she's gonna tell, like, she was like working herself up, like to where like she's like choked up or like nervous, like she's about to cry. And she's like, Mom, I'm bi. And she's like, really? She's like, yeah. She's like, I don't know how to tell my dad about it and all this. I don't know, for whatever reason she's nervous to tell me. And then her mom was like, yeah, don't tell your dad that. She's like, she says, because she's like 10 or 9 or something at the time.
Yeah.
So
They don't
her
know.
mom's like, all right. She's like, when's the last time you went on a date? And she's like, never. Like, is there a girl that you like? Is there a girl you have a crush on? She's like, no. Is there a boy you have a crush on? No. She's like, is there anyone you're interested? You're interested in? She's like, no. She's like, well, don't worry about it. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay. She's like, if you're not going to actively be bisexual, I mean, her mother's not as funny as I am.
Of
You know,
course,
she's not
yeah.
saying it as well as I am. But she's like, don't tell you, don't go tell your dad that. She's like, don't worry about it like that. Don't worry about it. When you get to an age where you're gonna want, you're gonna have feelings for people and all that, then it'll be whatever it is, and then your dad's not gonna care. Then you can love whoever you love, and as all your dad's gonna care about is if that person treats you right.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be fine. Don't worry. But right now, if you're not actively gonna go out and have relationships, then it doesn't. You're not anything.
Yeah.
Don't worry about any of that.
You should have told her bye, as in bye, you're leaving this house.
But at the same time, it's like,
you know what I'm saying?
the whole thing is like, well, I wonder where she got that into her head.
Yeah.
And I think what it is, like, I don't think it's like, like social media scares people into thinking, like, I don't think there's someone like an adult influencing her or anything. I think kids talk, and she learned what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And girls are very, like, when girls are friends with each other, they're like very much in love with each other.
Yeah.
Which guys, we kind of are too, but we're like, yeah, you suck, or you're gay, stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're not so
like,
gay about it.
Yeah.
We're not gonna, be in a hot tub.
Yeah,
and
but
give each other our first five,
girls are very, they're very physical with each other.
That's true.
When they're friends,
Right.
but it doesn't, So I think maybe she thought that it must mean that, oh well, I must be that because. I think because she really doesn't have any kind of romantic feelings. So I guess because she feels closer to girls that she thought, but she doesn't necessarily not. I don't know where she got it, but I think it's something like that's where it comes from, is that girls are a little bit gayer than we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I've gone in a hot tub with a buddy of mine. We smoked some stoves before, and just like
this is a very small hot tub, dude.
How big's the hot tub? I think
I purposely got it
okay.
small so other people would not get in it.
Gotcha.
But I mean, it's like
It's a 2-seater.
me and Michael would not be able to sit as far away from each other as we are right
Gotcha.
now.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining on Shanghai nights or Shanghai noon, whenever they get into the tub together and they're playing like the drinking game. And your wife just comes home and y'all are drinking sake and doing that.
Yeah, I think you can have enough masculine energy where you could be in a hot tub with your buddy and you both have like the whole phallic like cigar in your mouth and it's just not gay. I feel like you make it gay. You know what I mean?
It's gotta be it's gotta be a big enough hot tub where you're over there.
Well, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the hot tub we were in, it was like we could both like lay. Like I was laying and he was laying on the other side. So it's like
you can not even touch each other. No,
I mean we were, but that's
but that's not because y'all had to. That's because y'all wanted to.
We wanted to.
Yeah, right.
What are we
See,
doing,
you can make it gay if you want to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think, that's a really touching story, but I also think that you buried the lead a little bit because I think the really shocking thing for me is how well you're apparently co-parenting with your ex, that she was that cool. I mean, unless you're paraphrasing.
That was a rare, like, I was actually surprised, like, when she told me that story. And, like, when I told that story to other people, they were like, really? Her mom was, I was like, yeah, I'm shocked too that she was able to be able to so maturely
magnanimous about it,
like be able to handle it. Because I was like, usually, like, I'll put it to you this way, like, the difference is like
this evidence will be used in court.
When I read I'm pretty her mom doesn't listen to this, so it's fine. Or any of her people.
She's listening to every episode.
But like when we were together, like when it came, like I would read books like A Confederacy of Dunces, or I'd even write if I was, or even like a Michael, the guy that wrote Jurassic Park. How you say his last?
Michael Crichton.
Yeah,
Michael
like
Bay.
books like that, and or like books about like thoughts and philosophy and all kind of stuff like this. And she read The Hunger Games or Twilight books or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not on the same. We don't think the same.
Welcome back to shitting on our exes.
All right, so this is a bang shift, but
Yeah, this podcast got weird.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. Let's make a shift. When I masturbate.
Sometimes when I masturbate.
Maybe we should cut that in as the segue for every single shifting segment. So Artmosphere is currently under renovations. This is something we've been talking about for like the whole time that I've been doing comedy at Artmosphere, and it's actually really surprising to see they're finally actually doing it. So right now, they're right on the parade route for like the main one, right?
Yeah.
And so everybody's going to drive by and see that they are putting money into improvements at that place. And I think that's really good. It potentially could lead to some curiosity. We could potentially get a bigger crowd over there.
Yeah, one thing about the place is it doesn't look like a place of business.
Yeah.
It's very easily, every time I drive there, I almost pass it up every time.
Mm-hmm.
I ran into some guy there who was who's like friends with my dad at an open mic, and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "We were in town and we kind of just stumbled across." I was like, "How the fuck do you stumble across this place?" Like, I would never see this place and be like, "Oh, it's okay for me to go in there."
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't look like
This is someone's house.
It's like intentionally camouflaged.
every sign that tells you it's a business doesn't work. Like, they're all dark and they're off.
Yeah.
There's two open signs and neither one of them are light up. They're light up signs, but neither one has the ability to light up.
Yeah, which is very easily fixable with like one little circuit. Sometimes I just wish they would just give me some tools and like let me just start fixing shit, because like there are so many things that handymen could fit. I mean, between the two of us, we could probably do half the renovations ourselves.
Yeah.
But they're building a ramp, and I always thought it was a better idea to do this. I'm glad that they're doing it. They started off building a ramp that goes up to the front, but actually because of the way that like topographically, you got to go through several more steps to get to the front entrance. So the ramp has to be steeper and longer.
Yeah.
And it can only be so steep by code. And so I was like, they should obviously just do a ramp to the porch. Because that's a much more lower grade, and then it just goes right. There's a zero lip right into the door. That would be way better. And you know a little bit about this, right? I mean, like sort of visibility and stuff like that, because your mom is in a wheelchair, right?
Yeah.
How long has that been going on? Decades. Huh?
No, she got she had sticks. I always make the joke that if she was a South Park character, she went from Jimmy to Timmy because she had the sticks. And then she got the wheelchair.
Gotcha.
So she can like still kind of walk, but it helps.
Is that how people in the community call, like, that's y'all slang for crutches, sticks? I've never heard someone say sticks.
That's what she always called them. So that's just like, that was just the lingo that we always used for them.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we always would pick them up and pretend they were shotguns and just like,
yeah, of course.
and we'd just be like playing throughout the house, and she's like, I can't fucking walk. You know, please get out of here.
She's like, I need to go to the bathroom right now.
please. Every now and then, if she's like, you know, if her and my younger brother are getting into it, he goes, that's it. He just reaches around and clicks a button, and she can't move, turns the chair off.
I have a friend whose dad, his dad's a character, and at one point his dad started faking having a cane. And when the time it was going on, he was telling me, he's like, I'm telling you, he's faking. I'm like, dude, I don't think he's faking. He's like, yeah, dude, we're in Home Depot, and he was like pointing at shit with the cane. yeah. He's like, every time we go, he's like, we go somewhere like Walmart or something, that he would park far on purpose to make his dad. He's like, if he's like, I want to see how committed he is to this cane thing.
Yeah.
And it's like one day it's like raining, and he said, like, I parked far and it's raining, and he said he made it through the parking lot. The cane didn't touch the ground that much. He said, so then when he's like, eventually what I started doing is when he would get up and leave the room, or if like he would leave his cane laying around, he said I would shorten it. So then he would get, and this is true, I've seen this happen before. And he'd grab his cane and be like, oh, well, and get up. And then he would like almost fall down and be like, what the hell? And then eventually he starts coming around, no cane.
He weaned him off the cane.
And
then he finally said, Dad, what's up with the cane? He said, "Whew, man, I had to get rid of that thing. It's dangerous." But that's what it was from, because he never figured out that's what it was. He was shorting the cane.
That's so funny, dude.
Oh my God. That's awesome. So anyway, Artmosphere.
Yeah.
No, but the first things that they did, they talked about doing renovations for a long time. And the first thing that they did seemed worse. Like they're it seems like maybe a third of the footprint of the building is dedicated to a kitchen that they're not using.
Yeah.
And so the first thing that they did, I thought, man, just fucking get rid of the kitchen and make the room larger, and we'll start doing more bigger shows in here. And I don't know. The first thing they did was to make it even like they bumped something out from the kitchen into the area and made the whole room smaller. So I didn't understand what they were doing, but now they're doing the ramps. What else are they going to do?
Well, you know what that is. They bumped out that space. That's going to be bathrooms.
Oh, is that what that is?
It's going to be bigger bathrooms. So the bathrooms will also be like wheelchair accessible and stuff. Oh, nice. So I don't know. And so then the kitchen, they're going to start doing food.
Okay.
So I'm hoping, which I know this sounds weird, but I guess they're going to knock out the old bathrooms to make the kitchen bigger, which sounds kind of gross when you think about it. Yeah. But
they should knock those bathrooms out and make that more space for people to sit. Just take up that whole section.
And maybe they will. Maybe once they get the new bathrooms working, they'll get rid of those, because those other bathrooms, it's really hard for a person to use if they're in a wheelchair or something. What I thought would be hilarious is the new if they build these new nice bathrooms, these big old bathrooms, and only handicapped people are allowed to use them. And the rest of us have to use those little shitty ones. Yeah. And we're like, we're lined up and everything, and it's Don and Joshua Ewing are the only. They're like, one of them's getting a massage,
Yeah,
the other one's washing his hands. There's a koi pond. There's like a fountain with koi fish in it. Yeah, it's like
spa.
Yeah, there's like the music playing. That's like strings. It's real relaxing.
Dude, if you would hear the way Joshua Ewing talks about what they're doing over there, you'd think that's exactly what he's expecting, because like he's basically taking sole credit for why all this is happening.
Yeah.
And I don't know enough about the situation to really, argue against that, but it's hard to imagine that just one person, didn't he like lose that fight? I thought the whole point was that he sued them. He took them to court or whatever it was. It was like a whole thing where he was trying to get them. He was trying to force them to have to make it ADA accessible. And I thought he lost that fight. I thought that was the whole point. That was why he was so frustrated, is that he went to all that trouble and then it didn't work out in his favor.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I try to not. When I see all those messages.
Yeah.
I just put it away.
Yeah, that chat's already snooze. Has been snooze for a long time. But sometimes I'm like, man, should I even just still be in here? I can get the news I need to get elsewhere. But I'm happy for him that it's working out. I'm not convinced that he single-handedly made all of that happen, but I think that the improvements, I think it's going to be great for the Mardi Gras parade to be right. It's right on that route, because I think people are going to see and they're going to be curious. And that's just
like
only good.
Hopefully we'll get more more foot traffic in there, because it's downtown. It's not as much the downtown where people are walking, but there still are people walking.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of the problem right now. Like I said, is that it doesn't look like a place you're allowed to go in. It doesn't look like a public place.
It doesn't look inviting. There's not really a lot of exposure to it.
Oh, for a long time there was a jungle in front of it.
Yeah. And it's right across the street from like a landmark, thing in Lafayette, the Borden's ice cream place. And granted, ice cream and, raunchy stand up on a Tuesday or not, they don't necessarily go hand in hand, but I still think that there's
they probably see us on that porch and they're just like, yeah, this is the crackheads, that crack house across
those fucking idiots over
I'm
there.
sure they can smell all the dope that's being smoked over there from across the street.
You think they'd be like, maybe we should go smoke some, make this ice cream better.
Yeah. You mentioned that your daughter was here earlier, and what I don't know, just in case anybody's wondering what that meant, they're actually just hanging out in the other room and they're going to go to a thing after. But we were hoping that it would work out. You could come with us, because we're going to Dave Attell tonight in Baton Rouge. He's going to be at La Berge.
Yeah, I'm totally going to throw this in my kid's face too the next time they want to act like
you don't ever do anything.
Yeah, like, I'm going to let them know, you little bitches.
I miss Dave Attell.
I miss Dave Attell.
Who is that, Dad? I don't know.
For the stupid fucking daddy-daughter dance where I'll just sit around and fucking, there's no alcohol there. I drink a
it's BYOB.
flat Dr. Pepper and eat a sugar cookie while you and your friends dance to Taylor Swift.
Dude, I used to watch, like, again, on TV, you would see like that old cliche about people like spiking the punch at a boring party to try to get people to loosen up. And I never really like got the joke or really understood just from personal experience. But now going to so many, like, just like even today, like I'm all about Calais doing 4-H, but like I was there and they told me I was going to be there for 5 hours and there's no place to sit. It was pouring rain. It was freezing cold. And we were just sitting there watching chickens get judged, for like, I mean, it kind of felt like, I don't know, it kind of felt like watching court TV, but
if it wasn't for the fact that like I have to drive and drive with my daughter, I would totally eat an edible for this daughter dance.
Oh,
because it was mostly her and her friends hang. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm not going to be cramping her style.
Right,
Right.
Yeah. She's at that age now where I get what you mean. I was doing the same thing. I was just like chilling back against the wall, just watching her have fun with her friends. I was there for about 5 minutes of actual. But that's the thing. Have you noticed? Like, I don't know if your daughter's like this, but Jacob, I know you don't have kids, but like. Mine will still like grab my hand and be like kind of wanting to show me off to everybody. Like my dad's here because like I don't really get to go to a lot of stuff during the day that she normally does. And that feels good. Just to know that she's still, that she's still at an age where she hasn't outgrown, where she's just completely embarrassed by me yet. Because I know that's coming.
Yeah. No, yeah, mine's not like completely embarrassed yet, but I can see it coming.
Right.
But yeah, she's fine. Like, I see things I do that embarrass her, things I say embarrass her that used to she wouldn't care about, but now it's. Well, there was something in the story yesterday I could tell. I don't remember what it was, but it was something I was saying. I was like, yeah, when you say it, we're like in a gas station. And I was like, you have to do your head like this when you say, you know what I mean? You got to like have some attitude. And I could tell, it was like, if we had been like in the car, she would have been laughing.
Yeah.
She would have been down with it. But because I could tell she looked at the lady that was like at the register. And I was like, oh, you embarrassed? And she's like not wanting to answer.
Yeah, that's like that joke. Just not to bring this up again, but the N-word joke. I've been very pleased that the 2 times that I've done it right when I got off stage, some black guy came up to me and was like, dude, that's so funny or whatever, because that's the thing. People, when you make a joke that's potentially, we're talking about it being embarrassing, but whatever it is, socially uncomfortable or awkward, they're always looking to somebody in the room to give them permission to laugh at it.
Yeah.
A lot of those jokes don't
so
work
you've had
in
it
all
the 2
white
times
room.
you did it? You've had it?
Yeah, one of the guys at the Legends Pub did it, and then oh gosh, what's the guy's name that we were talking about in the chat? And I was like, oh, I don't recognize the guy.
Oh, yeah, Greg Hamilton.
Greg Hamilton came up to me as soon as the joke was over.
Yeah, that's definitely better for than them like waiting outside to jump you. Yeah. Hey, inward boy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, I just want to talk to you.
Come here.
Yeah.
It is. It's just people need sometimes permission.
And then the whole way too, they're like, look at sweater. look how tight his pants are.
We're very much looking forward to David. I watched some David Tell stuff today just to kind of like get jazzed up for it. And he did a joke on Conan that surprised me because I thought they would have probably edited this out. Have you heard the Attell joke about his nutsack?
I don't think so.
He was doing some jokes and it was just like several things and they were all about his nutsack. And then finally he said, my nutsack is like a tent that nobody knows how to fold up. So it's just all over the place.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's really
I was
funny.
like, oh my God, this dude. And he had Conan just like, doubled over. So I'm looking forward to I've never seen him live. Jason's opening up for him. He didn't even know that until like, I don't know, a couple days ago that he's going to be able to do that.
Yeah, because he had bought tickets already.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to end up being able to see him. I think he's doing 20 minutes.
Nice. He's opened for him a few times.
Yeah.
Before. Yeah.
Yeah. So
which is fantastic.
It's just wild to see what, because the thing is, he's there now. You could potentially get there faster. You know what I mean? Just, youthful energy and not having, he had other stuff that he was kind of also juggling while he was developing Lafayette Comedy. It's just crazy to think that if you continue down the road that you're on now, that you could be kind of networked in a similar way to him, potentially on a shorter time frame. Is that something that's on your radar right now? Because I wanted to ask you about, you did you produced a show for and Arielle Isaac Norman came through and did a show. What was that like?
She's so funny, man.
Yeah.
She's so professional, and it was a very red crowd, and she's more of like a
right,
blue. Just with, I mean, her bio is like she's like a bunch of words that people in Lake Charles don't understand. Yeah. And she still was able to like wrangle the crowd up and like got them at first. Like she could even like, she was like, okay, like I can tell you they're not on my side. And then she would like kind of explain things a little bit and then do it in a funny way. And they're like, oh, and they loved it. Yeah. And so it's just very professional, super funny. She just released an OnlyFans special for comedy. And that's another good buddy of mine, Jesse Saldana, also did the same thing. They both, there was 3 of them that they filmed it. And so it's really cool to see like just the connections that I've made and how like it's like, oh, like, because it's like you're just one step away from whatever. Like I always talk about him because but I had Jeff Dye, and we opened for Jeff Dye, and he was just one of the funniest people I've ever seen, one of my favorite comics, but also one of the coolest people I've ever met and hung out with. He was just like one of the guys. Yeah. And so because sometimes you'll. Like some of the comics, they just want to go like, hey, like I want to leave. Like I just want to go. Like they're on the road, and I get that. But he loves it, and so he's like, I want to hang out with everybody. I want to talk to people. And he just released an episode with Joe Rogan, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. Like it's just like 1 degree separation from that. And I know that it'll take me a long time to get there, but it's still like the possibility is there, and it's very inspiring.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about that is like, okay, Thursday night, we're doing a mic, and I'm outside talking to Jason Leonard. And I said, hey, man, I saw on social media that Jeff's in Austin, and he was doing the comedy Cap Comedy or whatever. Cap City Comedy, yeah. But he posted a picture that he was at the mothership with Joe. Yeah. And the mothership posted some pictures, and one of them he was on stage. So I was like, oh, he performed, and he posted a picture of him and Joe Rogan, and I forgot what it said, but you could tell he was teasing something. Yeah. And I told Jason, I'm like, man, I wonder if he did the podcast. Like, I hope he did Rogan, and it would probably come out tomorrow if he did or whatever. And not even thinking about this when I'm saying it, Jason goes, let's see. And Jason picks up his phone and starts typing, puts his phone down. And then we keep on talking, and a little while later, he looks at his phone, and he says, yeah, he did it. Yeah. Because he texted Jeff and asked him, hey, did you do Rogan? And then Jeff texted him back and said, yeah, I killed that shit.
Love it.
And I was thinking, like, I was even telling y'all the other night, I said, it's crazy, like, before, like, a year ago, like, I was always so in love with comedy, and there's all these people that I knew about, and I listened to their podcasts, and there's this whole, like, fantasy world, pretty much. And now it's like I can kind of touch it. Like it's not a fantasy world. It's a real world, and it's just right there.
It's just right there, man.
Because it's even like Jason's talking about he's going to Austin soon. And he's like, yeah, he's doing something, but pretty much it's kind of like, I guess maybe it's like the open mic, but
yeah, so you do the open mic, and Adam E gets there.
And Adam E gets there, so, and then Adam E can pass us, so then anytime he goes to Austin, he can call in for spots. And I'm like, and that's crazy because Adam Egget was this person I knew about because he used to be the booker at the Comedy Store. Now he's the booker at the mothership. And it's like, he's right there now. He was in Norm Macdonald's book.
Yeah, they did a show together. Yeah,
did you ever read Norm Macdonald's
book? So funny, dude. You gotta read it. Adam, you've got a gambling problem.
Yeah, he wrote an autobiography and lied the whole fucking book.
The whole thing's a lie.
The whole book is a lie. And he kept going back to saying that Adam Egget used to jerk guys off under a bridge before he would manage the Comedy Store and shit like this.
So funny.
And Adam Egget was on his show too when he had like the Netflix show.
Yeah, I remember
he
that.
He would make Adam so uncomfortable.
Yeah, and he was really just his punching bag, you know? Yeah. But I'm like, but that's the thing is crazy is like, it used to be a fantasy, and now it's not anymore. You know, it's like I'm not like all friends with all these people, but like that weekend when Jeff Dye came, a few of us after that we went to another place and we stayed there till the bar closed. Like it was like 2 a.m. or something when I left, and he's just hanging out. And then the next night, I went to work the door for you, and then I think the way it went, I think he asked you like, "Hey, does he want to go up?"
Yeah, he was like, "That dude's a comic, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "Does he want to go up?" And I was like, "Let me ask him."
Yeah, like so it's pretty cool, you know.
It is cool
because I've always been a fan. I've been a fan of him for, I mean, I don't know, for a while. Like I kind of discovered him just from like listening. Like I used to when I would work, I would listen to Pandora, and I would listen to just like just type in Bill Burr or someone you like, and then it would do like tracks from comedy albums and stuff. And then till eventually, like that's what I was typing in Pandora. I was typing in Jeff Dye to hear his bits, and then other bits like from other people like him. You know,
yeah.
So it's insane.
There was a guy, I have a good buddy of mine. He went to Vegas a few months ago, and he had come. He had been to a few of the brewery shows, but he saw Eric Knowles. And Eric Knowles is out in Beaumont. Y'all familiar with him? Super funny guy, and he won like World Series of Comedy in 2016 in Vegas, and like so he's been all over, and he goes to the Mothership a lot. He's good friends with like Brian Simpson, and so he does like the Bottom of the Barrel show. And it was so funny because the driver was listening to Eric's stuff, and he goes, "Dude, I know this guy. I've met him before. Like my buddy does shows with him." And the driver's like, "What? I love Eric. I listen to this all the time. It's so funny." So it's so cool. Just like it's like it seems like such a big world, but it's like the more you get into it, the smaller it gets.
Yeah, like and it already at this level, like it's like we're not making any money really or anything like that, but at the same time, it's like, man, it's like we're already kind of living the dream a little bit.
Yeah,
you know?
We are. Like we come in, we get these opportunities to open for people, and then we all just go hang around and eat and drink for hours afterwards. It's like this. Like these are like names. These are people you see them on TV, and then you're hanging out with them. It's like it's a really surreal.
And a lot of times you don't even have to be open, and you can like go work the door, or sometimes you don't have. You could just be there.
Yeah.
Just be there
because you just gotta show up. Just be there, and that's how I ended up hanging out with Jeff. Like I had worked the door, but it wasn't even because I worked the door. It's just because I was there and Tyler opened. So Tyler was like, "Hey, this is my buddy here," and introduced me. And then he's like, "Hey, we're going over here. Do you want to come with us?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, of course." You know.
It's just so accessible, you know, and I think everything is more like that now with social media, but I also think that you can still look at something like music or even like, you know, professional athletes or whatever. Like if a football team's coming through town, you know, you're not going to like, I think you're a little bit less likely to be like brought into the inner circle of like shit that's going on behind the scenes with like, you know, the Tigers if they were going to the championship or something. But like with music's that way too, but with comedy, I don't know, like comics is just a vibe. And so
with music, unless like you're a chick, you're not going to get to meet the band usually.
Yeah.
Different rules.
Yeah. Because I think that's like, because our thing is like, we all love to hang. Like everybody that's one of the main reasons why we do it. Because we get to hang out with other like-minded people.
Even a comedian on the road is way more interested in talking about comedy than getting some sex.
Yeah.
You know, like
most of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Some of them manage to do both.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Arielle and the way that she was able to sort of win the Lake Charles crowd over by just her professionalism and just being like, well, let me just break this down. And instead of just clamming up when people didn't respond. But that you can look at her and you can see just by her material that if she didn't have the ability to do that, I don't know how she would thrive.
Yeah, she wouldn't be where she is if she couldn't do that. Yeah.
Right. And so what I was thinking, that kind of led me to something else that I think about a lot, because I am, the day this comes out, Monday morning, I'll be headlining OBs that night for the open mic. And I was thinking, I'm glad that it's happening now, because like even just, I think in December, I did a 15-minute spot at the distillery,
Mhm.
and I had to kind of pull up all the best jokes that I had to be able to do that much time. And unfortunately for me at that particular time, a lot of the jokes that I really liked were just a lot of the same, oh, don't I come across as gay, over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And so obviously that would be boring for anybody after a while, but
Mhm.
particularly if the crowd's not going to respond well
Yeah.
to that kind of material. And so I'm glad that I've written a lot just between, it's just worked out that I'm able to phase some of that out and replace it with some other stuff to give more variety. But I'm still a little bit wondering how my stuff's going to go across, because some of it is still that.
Mhm.
And so I've heard several other people say similar things. And just from your perspective, there may not really be that much of an interesting answer to this question. It's probably very self-evident. Like, why do these gay jokes not go over in this town? Well, they're just not into it. It's the culture. But is there anything beyond just the knee-jerk answer that you can think of? Any deeper insights as to why maybe, masculinity is obviously like, a big part of the culture there, and how being anti-masculinity is maybe not going to go over as well. And also follow up, do you have any tips on how to maybe improve that situation as from a comic? Like if I'm on stage and I'm like, I don't know, this is going to go over that well, what's the strategy there?
I think the strategy is just doing as many sets that you can as possible. Because, and that goes back to something I mentioned that I was going to bring back at the beginning of the podcast when I was talking about Cody and Roderick. Because, so the way Roderick has like all the credits. And so what Cody did was he's been reaching out to people, and he's like, hey, like, here's our package. It's like we're doing a co-headliner. And so was he ready to be a co-headliner? I don't think so. But he put himself in enough situations to where he was doing that set over and over and over again consistently, constantly changing out things. So he figured out how to become that and do that set. So I think what it is just whatever, it doesn't matter whatever your set is or anything like that. Some people are going to like it. Some people aren't. That's just how it always goes. But the more that you're doing that amount of time and practicing that muscle and just working it out, that's what's going to make it come across better.
Yeah.
Because you have been in that situation so many times, you're going to better figure out how to handle it.
Yeah.
It's just time.
You got to put yourself in you can't stay in the comfortable zone.
Exactly. Yeah.
You gotta get out there and put yourself in uncomfortable positions and kind of fail and be embarrassed a little bit. You know what I mean? It's just part of being a comedian. If you're afraid of feeling like you're making a fool out of yourself, you're not gonna get very far. It's a big part of being a comedian is having some uncomfortable and embarrassing experiences to where I kind of feel like that every now and then I'll have some experiences that, like, if it had happened to me like within the first couple months, would have been like devastating. And now it's just like, this is just like I'll be joking about it like immediately. You know what I mean? It's just, this is just what it is.
I mean, it's just trying out new jokes. Like that's what you do every time you try out a new joke. You're going to see, and you're probably going to fail. But that's okay, because then you're going to know how to go forward from it. There's been plenty of shows where I'm like, okay, like I could do 30 minutes. I could probably do 40 minutes. The longest thing I ever did was 35. But that one time I did it, it was at the open mic. I headlined it. It was my birthday. So I was like, why not? And it went well. But I know that if in order to translate that into multiple audiences, am I ready to do that? No. But I would put myself in that situation as much as possible, so that way to make myself become ready. So it's just putting yourself through the fire. Yeah. So that's all you got to do. So the more opportunities, that's why I'm glad you accept it and you want to come out and do it, because you need to have those opportunities to be able to try it out and figure out how to make it work for you.
And I think that Artmosphere is probably a pretty good example, because I did 20 minutes there. I was a little bit worried that I'd said that I did 20, but I didn't actually do 20. So I had to actually go back and check the tape, and I did do 20 minutes at Artmosphere. So, and it wasn't as dependent on all of that gay stuff. And so, but generally speaking, I'm not the only one having that experience, right? Like we all kind of know that those
I've
jokes
had that experience.
Don't
but
go
it's
over
weird though, because I've had like a certain joke in particular where I'm talking about gay stuff, and like not. Well, the last time I headlined over there, they were like, "Nope," like
Yeah.
audibly saying no. One guy said, "You're in the wrong town."
Yeah, which is ridiculous because you've done that joke there
I did
so
it-
many times, and it's worked fine.
Yeah, and it's worked. And
been
I did
hilarious.
it whenever I did it for Jeff Dye.
Mm-hmm.
I did some other stuff before that usually kills that was like okay. They got an okay response, but then when I
Yeah.
got to that one, I finished with that and I killed on that joke.
Yeah,
They loved it.
Exactly.
So it's
Yeah.
At that
You
point, it's just
never
like
know.
fuck them, you know.
Yeah.
Like you've done this stuff before. Like you'll do jokes and then someone will be like, "Oh, well, I didn't like that," and you're like, "Okay, well, that's fine. I've done this joke 1,000 other times, and it's worked every other time. It just didn't work tonight.
sometimes
and that's okay."
Sometimes it's like, well, like that time I did that last time I headlined at OB's, I could tell when I was up there, I was like, there really was only like this one table of people, and they were like probably in their 50s and 60s and
Mhm.
stuff, and they were not like, a lot of like black and gray American flags on the shirt, like the American flag, but not the right colors it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And but I could tell, like I remember thinking it while I was on stage, it's like these people aren't digging it, but I'm killing at the bar.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they even told like afterwards, like one of the girls that works at the bar, well, and the guys and all the people behind the bar, they were like, we were loving it, dude. And one of the girls was like, they didn't get it.
They don't. Yeah.
They didn't get anything you were saying up there.
Yeah.
They did, because the first joke I did my whole thing about taking too many edibles, and then I'm like, all of a sudden I'm in Nancy Pelosi's office. Did that joke. I've been doing that joke. First time I did it was 51st jokes from last year.
Mm-hmm.
That joke has always, and I got it tighter too.
Mhm.
I took out all the shit that doesn't need to be in there. It's a great joke to start with it, because like this joke always kills. It is never not killed. I threw it out there that time. It was silence. I even said it in the microphone. I was like, that joke always kills. It's like, this is the first time I've ever told that joke and it doesn't work. And one guy was like, we don't like Nancy Pelosi.
That's
Not what the joke's
point.
about, sir. The joke really has nothing to do with Nancy Pelosi. It's a weed joke.
Yeah.
It's about edibles fuck you up sometimes. You know what I mean?
That's so funny.
But that's the whole. That just could have told me. Then what the set the mood for what the whole rest of the set was like the shit that they laughed at was like the most simplest
Yeah.
shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you're gonna get that.
What do you think people? I was thinking about this sometimes, and this might be an oversimplification. So let me know what you think. But I was thinking that sometimes when it comes to people's expectations that are not like avid comedy fans, and they're just the average person that might show up at a show, I feel like they're either expecting Ariel, or they're expecting Seinfeld, or they're expecting Larry the Cable Guy. You know what I mean?
They have, if they don't know much, then it's just the only thing that they do know, whatever small piece of that is, that's what they expect. And when they don't get it, they're like, whoa, I don't fucking know. What is this?
Yeah, and it's gonna be shit they saw, like especially like older people that are way more used to the TV era.
Yeah. This isn't Dick Van Dyke. What the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
well, they're just like even they're used to seeing what you can see on TV. So like a lot of people, you can run into problems where part of the thing with the gala was too, like they yanked me off of stage. I was supposed to do 10 minutes. I did like 4.5 minutes, and they were like, get the fuck off the stage. And the whole thing before that was like, they were like, no, it's all adults. Like, oh, dirty's fine.
Oh my gosh.
They always
But they
say
don't
that.
know how. They don't really know. They think dirty's fine because they watch what's a dirt like Saturday Night Live or something, like the dirtiest thing you can put on TV. They don't really understand how dirty comedy is,
Right.
You know, they don't really know what's being said. You know,
Yeah. Or even a Mark Norman. I don't think people, even the average person, would be expecting Mark if they just went to a show that, oh, you got to see this guy. He's so funny. What are they picturing? You know, because I don't think it's a Mark Norman type.
no, yeah, those guys, they've built like their fan base. I've even heard like Colin Quinn was saying like nowadays, he said late night, like doing late night TV, like spots on late night talk shows, almost does more damage than good.
Yeah.
He said, because you go do that and then people learn from you from that, or they see your name on a flyer like, oh, he was on Seth Meyers or whatever. Well, they see that. that's your TV set though. Then they go watch you and they see your real set, and then they're very unhappy with what they. You're not proper. It's like the whole point is to advertise a product, but you're not advertising it honestly. Like you're not really showing them because of the FCC. I mean, you can't.
Right.
You know. I went to like one of my friend's kids' birthday parties, and like his father-in-law came up to me and he was like, "You doing that comedy, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah,
that comedy."
Yeah, he's like, "Man,
put this in your skits."
He said, "You know what? I wish they would fire that Jimmy Kimmel and hire you to go on that show." Now, he's never heard any of my comedy for one thing, and he's like, "I hate that Jimmy Kimmel," and I was like, "Dude, I have like." That's not my goal at all. Like I do stand up. I don't want to be on a late night talk. I was like, nobody watches that shit. He said, "That's not true. I'll watch it every night." I'm like, you fucking hate the guy. Why are you watching it? I was like, I'm so confused.
Makes no sense.
But I was like, but because that's the thing is like, he's so set in his ways that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You watch the late night talk shows. He gets up in the morning. He watches Paspa 2 or whatever. You know what I mean? He's stuck in that TV thing. Mm-hmm. You know? So it's like, I hate that guy. I'm like, quit fucking watching him. Let's go to bed earlier. I don't know what to tell you.
Change the channel.
Yeah.
Conan was the only one of those guys that I actually enjoyed watching.
Yeah, he was my favorite.
Yeah. I just felt like he was I felt like the rest of them they were all just like, it all just seems like they're just trying to not get you, but they're just like they're out there. They're trying to convey a message to you.
Yeah, it's a big commercial.
Yeah, it's a big commercial for whatever it is that they're promoting, and but it also they just seem so fake. I think that not necessarily the message thing, but it's like they just seem so fake. It doesn't come off as genuine. But I felt like Conan, just the way he talks and everything, it just seems like a genuine.
He had like
person
in the '90s. I remember. They would play it during the day on Comedy Central. Mm-hmm. And like when it would be summertime and I wouldn't have school, I'd watch it. And he had like wacky skits. He would, and bits. It was like late night, would like a stand-up would do on a late night show. Even though most of these guys are like Jay Leno is a great stand-up. Mm-hmm. But that show was, I don't know, to me, it's not what it was like he had to switch to like, a talk show host. Mm-hmm. And even though Conan was a talk show host, but Conan was a comedian. Like he had on Tom Selleck. Tom Selleck shows up with no mustache. So they did a whole bit where they had this little fake hospital room made of like a shoebox, and his mustache was in the hospital bed, and it went through a whole thing, and then eventually the mustache like starts. I forgot how it went, but he either got cocky with Tom Selleck or he starts telling secrets, or I forgot what it did. But at a certain point, then like Tom Selleck takes a little pillow and.
That's so funny. Dude.
Yeah, that's so funny. Like you're not gonna see that on fucking Jimmy Kimmel.
No,
you know,
Jimmy Kimmel will be like, or not Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon would be like, "Oh my god, your mustache is gone."
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about dates. Jacob, we'll start with you. Do you have anything you want to promote?
Perfect. Dates. I actually had 2 dates in one day the other day. That was fun.
Nice.
Yeah. Neither one of them went anywhere, but yeah, it is what it is. Upcoming dates. I've got. We're doing Lundy Graw comedy show the Monday at OB's before, so not this Monday but next. That'll be a fun show. I got Patrick Eady from Houston coming in, and then I don't have any other comedy shows until last weekend of February. I'm doing Huckleberry Brewing with Cody and Roderick in Alexandria, and then I'm doing You Look Like on the 24th on the Saturday.
Cool.
So I'll be here in
too.
town. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
You want to get one out real quick? Not rub one out, but like a You Look Like joke?
No.
No?
No.
You sure?
No, I'm sure I would. No.
You look like you're going to bring your daughter to the daddy-daughter dance. Roasted.
Yeah.
You got him.
Yeah. God, you got me good.
This is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, I'm going to call
you.
Jason and be like, dude, I don't think I'm ready for it.
I'm going up against Sam Williams and fuck it, I'll just say it. I'm going to be like, you look like Big Rel. Whatever the guy's last name, I don't know. But it's gonna be my opener, so Sam, get ready.
It's a little taste. Drew, you got any dates you want to plug?
Yep. A big thing coming up. This will come out, it'd be Monday. So on the Friday, February 9th, Stone versus Drunk versus Sober. It's the Mardi Gras edition. It's special. So it's Stone versus Drunk versus Sober versus Mardi Gras. And Matt McCann and myself will be Team Mardi Gras. Team Mardi Gras used to be Tyler Arsenault and Ken motherfucking Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
Undefeated. I'm hoping we'll keep it undefeated. So that's going to be a really fun show.
Mm-hmm.
And then the week after, I'm doing the Thursday night Ghost Roast in Baton Rouge at the station. I'll be John Gotti going up against Tyler Arsenault as Randy Savage. And then that's a Thursday. That's the 22nd.
Can we get a quick John Gotti impression?
Hey, what do you want from me over here?
Oh my God. hey, yo.
Yeah.
This guy.
Yo, this guy's a savage. I gotta work on it. Once I'm in the whole thing, I'm gonna shave my beard and do my hair and everything. I'll be feeling it.
Yeah.
You're going to get shock value just that alone, just from shaving. I think people are going to be like, oh shit, you're really committed to it.
Yeah. Just don't watch the John Travolta Gotti movie and try and do that.
That was terrible.
Yeah.
No, watch the one they made in the 90s was a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Gotti. Mm-hmm. And okay, so then the night after that is the 23rd. That's Wait What? Comedy drinking game. Isaac Cozell does that, and there's somebody, man, I feel bad now. I don't know the other guy's name.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know him. I know Isaac, so that's why it was easier to remember. It's a comedy drinking game. We do regular sets. They put stuff up on a board behind you. Behind the comedian. The comedian can't see it. The comedian does anything on the board or says anything on the board, then the audience has to drink. Really fun game. Fun show. And then you look like the night after that. And I would say follow Lafayette Comedy, follow Lake Charles Comedy. There's Oof Comedy. That's John Merrifield. He does the Ghost Roast shows to see all that stuff. And Tyler Arsenault and, like we mentioned earlier, Tyler Arsenault and Jason Leonard have a great podcast. We're Dying Down Here. You can listen to it anywhere. You can watch it they're on Lafayette Comedy's YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great to watch. There's, all the people who are coming through town, all the big names, are doing interviews. So it's a really good show.
Mm-hmm. Plus one to that. Also, so today, this morning, if you're listening to this episode the day it comes out, I will be headlining the OB's open mic in Lake Charles. Let's see, later that same month on February 26th, I'll be back at OB's because John Merrifield is doing a show there as a fundraiser for his tour, Tiny Little Jokes. That's going to be, his tour is actually going to be the first week of March. So definitely, you're not going to see any of those shows because they're all going to be in Texas and in Arizona, but come out to Lake Charles, for, that show. That's going to be a good one. And then on February 28th, it's going to be our Lafayette Comedy's first, showcase at a cool brewery called Adopt a Dog.
I forgot.
Are you on that too?
Yeah, on the 28th.
Yeah, we're both
I'm
on that
one.
too.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that one, Adopt a Dog is the only brewery that's actually in Lafayette. And it's Adopt a Dog, and you can have dogs there, but they have to be outside. So I believe our comedy show is going to be on the patio there. I think it's going to be outside. And so
that's great. I've got a lot of jokes I've been running by my dogs that
Perfect.
have been killing. So,
so that's going to be the 28th of February on a Wednesday. And I think that's about all we have to plug right now. So,
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
glad you guys tuned in for the episode and keep plugging away at it. And we'll see you next week.